I honestly don't know what to say, really. I never expected that a video where I kind of just talk about an idea would get so many views for my channel. I mean, as it is right now, it stands around like 80 views or something like that, which is pretty crazy for my channel. It's pretty ridiculous, but yeah, I want to thank you so much for showing the interest at least. I was expecting more comments, but that's not the problem. There is actually no problem entirely. It's just I can't speak out like my level of thank you for watching the video. But at least I got some kind of request for what you wanted as a video. So this is gonna be it, where I go more in depth with my game projects. I'm going to split it up, and I'll also leave some timestamps in the description where you can kind of click away if you want to skip a certain part or something like that. Because I know that you won't like sit through the entire thing, and if you do that, you're a crazy maniac. But also, I appreciate if you do. So I'm going to leave some timestamps if you want to skip it. First direction will be more kind of like ideas that I had to add into games, or just my own idea for an official game that already exists, like a DLC or some kind of add-on or a spin-off or something like that. So that's what we're gonna go with first, and then I go more in depth later on with the games that I designed myself. And I was wrong previously. I think I said that I had done like 4 games or 3 or something like that, when in reality I've actually made around like 5.5 games. So yeah, probably should have done a bit more research on that, shouldn't I? Alright, but without further ado, let's get into the idea section first. So this map right here is the biggest one. It's containing the most paper in it, obviously. It is a kind of like an abomination. It's sort of like a mess, but I only have 3 maps at the moment. I don't know why I haven't been bothering buying some new one, but either way, here it is with the 2 whole games in it, and there are also plenty of ideas that I wanted to share with you. So let's go over the ideas then. So for starter, I won't show any like art that I've made, mainly because it's my own work and I kind of wanted to keep it to myself as my own property, and I will only release it if I know for sure that the work that I made will never be a reality, like it will never be a game itself or anything like that. So, or unless it actually gets made, who knows? I mean, at this point, one can only hope that it actually becomes a reality. But so first off, when I was a kid, I don't remember which year this really was, but you probably remember Angry Birds, right? The cool little puzzle game where you throw some bunch of birds with a slingshot, and you had the green evil piggies that were always stealing their eggs. It was kind of like a funny idea, but a very neat concept for of a game. Like, it had a fun value to it, so you could really play it like forever, it felt like. And it had so many spinners and all that. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with thinking of making my own kind of idea for it. And I actually had like an entire spin-off that I sort of thought would be kind of like a cool idea. I mean, after all, they went with Star Wars, they went with Out to Outer Space, they even went to the movie Rio, if you remember that, with the Bluebird in it, and they even went to different seasons like Halloween and winter, and like everything was in Angry Birds. But of course, the popularity of it has been drying out. It's pretty much dead at this point, even though they sort of try, I could say, to revive their old franchise. I mean, it was pretty popular for a long while. But either way, what I had an idea for was I don't know how it would work, because I mean, Angry Birds is not really a game made for a story or anything like that. It's pretty just garbage story if you really think about it. But somehow I managed to craft myself an own spin-off of Angry Birds where they have all representative like elements, and not really elements in like being, you know, like normal earth or stone or something like that. No, they would have like kind of unique. So one would be like a fire, one would be water, but then there would be some that could be like a volcano, and one would be a cannonball. As I mentioned, this is really old stuff, so I don't really remember what I had in mind, but still, it's funny to see that I actually made it work. But then also, like, it would be their own unique kind of mechanic to each bird, with the unique ways to kind of like defeat the pigs and win the different rounds. So that's kind of like what I have as a neat little idea, like Element Angry Birds, but that's a long back kind of idea that I had. Like it was around perhaps 8 years ago, I say. Like it's really long, a really long time ago. But yeah. And next up, there were some ideas, sort of like in DLC you could consider, or actually 4 DLCs for one of my favorite shooters of all time. I don't know if you heard about it, but it was a pretty big hype train for a game called Evolve when it was kind of relevant. Now it's really dead at the moment. And I was like one of the biggest fans of it because I could never stop playing it. I played it day on day, all night long, like 24/7. It felt like I was obsessed with it, even though it was pretty stupid if you look back in retrospect like that. But still, there was just something about it that just was really fun to me. I would pay for every DLC, every new character, every skin. I was a truly dedicated fan to it. And I know it sounds like I'm a huge moron for playing Evolve, if you know that game, and also for buying all the shit that they sell, but really, I just fucking loved it, man. I really did. So I came up with my own kind of expansion, like with a monster, or actually 4 monsters, seeing out there are 4 DLCs, but then also there will be 4 entire teams. There will be 4 assaults, 4 supports, 4 trappers, and 4 medics. And I got kind of clever, I think, with the monsters. Like the first monster I did was going to be like, if you remember the Wraith, which is considered a female monster, I sort of made like a male version of it, you could say. Then I also made a kind of like a funny little pun called Clover Tree, which would be like a tree monster, obviously with clover and tree. And it's my own little play on Cloverfield because that was a monster movie that I really enjoyed. There will be a ice monster to kind of capitalize on the whole Ragnarok thing. I know the Ragnarok is not a ice monster, it's actually a giant serpent and all that. Believe me, I am a Viking personally. But I've seen plenty of pictures that kind of depict like Ragnarok to be this like giant ice monster, which I kind of got the idea. And it would kind of make sense seeing how Ragnarok itself is determined around the Nordic countries and all that. So that was a neat little fun idea. And then the last monster was going to be like a sea creature, because they never had it involved. They had a magma monster called Behemoth, they had a fire-breathing monster called Goliath, they had a flying monster called Kraken, they had an insect called Gorgon, and then Wraith, as I mentioned. But they never had a sea monster, which I found pretty odd. I mean, an obvious monster could have been Leviathan, which is a monster that I made, which I think could make sense just to have like a variety of monsters in terms of their home and background story and all that. Because I mean, the world that they were on, it wasn't just complete land, there was water all over the place, so it could have been cool to see kind of like a sort of water sea type of creature monster you could play as, at least to me. So yeah, so that was a bit of an add-on to Evolve. And then I had my own little ideas for expansions for Destiny. If you are dedicated fans, which is hard to believe obviously, to my channel, you know that I play a lot of Destiny. I even made a lot of like funny montages or just when I mess around, and I've been since year 1, like I'm a true year 1 dedicated player. And I've designed my own kind of DLCs for the game. So the first one is a Cabal expansion, But seeing how we already had Destiny 2 and the major plot in it was involving the cabals and all that, so now it's kind of like a broken dream. But at least I had a neat little concept for it with its own raid. What's it called? Raid boss. That's what that's the word I was searching for. But yeah, kind of like raid boss. And I had some other expansions as well, like I had a Warmind expansion that we're going to get in Destiny 2 pretty soon, I think, at the time of this recording. I think it will be released in May, but yeah, that's another thing that I had. And I even designed, like, if you know Destiny, you obviously know about Rasputin and how the Warmind kind of works and all that. I was picturing him to be like a reawakening or awakening, but in like not as a AI kind of state, more like a chappy kind of droid kind of state, if you know what I'm saying. Like, not an AI, but just a robot that would awaken and have the consciousness of the Warmind. And then you would have to fight him because he is corrupted by his certain swords and all that. Then I had a Vex expansion, I even had a Hive expansion, and then the last expansion that I created was one dedicated to a theory that a lot of people had about the Traveler and the Speaker being evil, and my expansion would kind of be like, oh, you got the reveal that all this was just a genius plan and Traveler actually is evil and all that kind of thing. But saying how Destiny 1 is still kind of popular, but Bungie has completely given up hope on that game and they're trying to focus all of their attention to the second one. And I mean, I'm just a solo person, so it will most likely never happen. But it would have been cool to see, at least in my opinion, like more dedication to the specific race in terms of DLCs. Because I mean, my Hive DLC was going to be featured after the Dreadnought incident. If you remember, we defeat the Taken King called Oryx in it, and this would be taking place on the Dreadnought, and it would feature like 3 Hive gods that would take over the Dreadnought and sort of become the new coming king sort of thing. But yeah, I had a lot of fun working on them. But that's gonna be it for the add-ons 2 games, and now we're going to go into the main games that I designed. So the first game is actually my own Cuphead game. Now I love Cuphead, right? I am obsessed with it. Like, I love everything about it. The music is beautiful. And the bosses are really well made done. They are all challenging in their own unique way, and I think every single boss feels unique. And also the art style is amazing. Like, I can go an entire video just dedicated to how much I praise that game, alright? It's really good, and I think everyone has said enough about how good it is already. But yeah, so ever since the release, I sort of wanted to make my own kind of Cuphead game, obviously as a capitalization of it, but also as a dedicated fan, just to see, or not see, but rather to show like how much I appreciate the game and kind of make my own little version, like praising it even more sort of thing. And I have a group of friends on my PlayStation 4, excuse me, where they also sort of like Cuphead. They never actually played it, but they've seen it and they sort of enjoy watching it, especially some YouTubers that are playing it and all that. So I designed my game after us as the group that we are, and I made my own character, and then I made the rest of the gang's character, and then I made some bosses to it, and also a story that is sort of not to be taken seriously. Like, it's pretty stupid, but at least the game would acknowledge it being a very ironic game kind of thing. Like, it wouldn't be a ultra serious kind of thing like that. It would be kind of like a stupid little story that would make sense and all that, or at least be sort of humorous, and then it wouldn't flat out like just be completely dried or just be boring or anything like that. Like, all the characters would have their own personalization, they will all have their own unique abilities, and they will always kind of like conflict with each other. Like two characters are not really the best friends, even though they are in the same team and they could go against each other or just say stupid stuff. Like, it would just be a fun little game to play as. But of course, it would be a hard game because it's a Cuphead-inspired game, and the bosses would be really challenging themselves in their own unique way. It has a lot of inspiration from Cuphead, but I try to make it more in my own style, like it, or not really style because it's still in the 1930s kind of cartoonish way, but like my own kind of storytelling and character development, you know, like a little bit deeper of a Cuphead game, I would say, where you sort of feel the characters a little bit and all that. So the second game that I developed would be sort of like a not really kid-friendly game. It would be more like a kind of 11-year-old type of thing. I don't remember right off the bat like the ESRB rating for games, but it would be not 3-year-old or 7-year-old. It would be the one about that. I think it is 12. I think it is, but 12 or 13. Like it kind of like a picture a Crash Bandicoot game, but it's for an older generation of people in their age. And it will be featuring 5 characters with their own unique abilities, and they are pretty miscellaneous characters, like they have nothing really interesting in their life until one incident occurs where they take their job as being a artifact or sort of treasure hunter kind of thing. Like they're working for this guy that owns a museum, but he has no like major relics or nothing to really show up, and he enlists the team of 5 which takes the job to take in some of the artifacts that they go all over the place trying to find. And there will be 6 games I have planned it to be, and they will all have their own unique adventure, their own unique sort of artifacts or stuff like that. And there will always be a mechanic like where you are going through like this platforming kind of maze in every level or every stage, but then at the end you find like the artifact, and then you can actually be able to use it, like try it out, so you know like kind of what power it would actually contain. And the first game would be featuring like the start of, obviously, about who the characters are and the character development, and then what their missions are and things like that. The second game would be featuring more about the relics of the older legends, so like even stronger relics kind of thing. The third one would be not really that much of finding a relic, but rather it would be more like a rescue mission where another sort of team that this guy that owns the museum has already sent out, having some problems when trying to return home, and then it's up to this team of 5 to go after and rescue them, or sort of rebuild their ship, like either replace it or just to fix it so they can return home with some new artifacts slash relics. And then the fourth one would be dedicated to more like a theme about gigantic sort of relics. Like we're talking Japanese anime style kind of huge weapons or huge gauntlets and things like that, and the bosses or the places you will go to will be like on top of gigantic creature kind of thing. Sort of like Shadow Colossus, but like more Xenoblade, I think, because it will be mostly featured on giant moving creatures that having their own kind of platform adventure on top of their bodies and all that. And then the fifth one will be that you're going to space, so you will not really go to bigger planets and all that, but you will go to sort of like locations on planets that are surrounding the home area kind of thing. And then the sixth one will be the Lost Adventure, where you find out who the true evil really is, or rather what actually will happen. Like, will this character survive, will someone disappear, or what will really happen. Like, everything will be revealed in the sixth one, all the mysteries and everything from it. So I think that could be a neat little idea, actually. The sixth one will be probably the darkest one in terms of its elements and stories, but I think it could work for the age that I'm sort of putting onto the game. Now for the third game, and this is probably one of the biggest games and also one of the more complex games that I actually designed, it will be essentially my own kind of RPG, 2D RPG to be specific, kind of like an Undertale kind of game where you can either play as a decided character or already made character, if you want to put it that way, but also as a customizable character where you can make your own and have your own little adventure. And that's roughly what I have titled the game. I don't know if there's a game now that is called The Adventure, but that's basically what I called it, as the project, because I mean it's just a project, it's not a finished thing. But the thing that makes it really complex is that I kind of want to have a 2D RPG at first, but then it will be like an unlockable extra content after beating the game 2 times, one with the designer character and then with a customizable character. And then I kind of want the game to turn into more like a Binding of Isaac sort of thing, like a top-down 2D shooter kind of style. Or you have to make it into 2 different games. Like, it's kind of complex. I don't really know anything about programming at all. I'm pretty stupid around that topic. But I either want it to be 2 games or it would be 1 game, but then it would kind of be clustered together. Again, I don't know how it would work, but that's kind of like what I had in mind. That you would be playing the RPG first, and then after you complete it 2 times, then you would just get into the Isaac kind of style of game. So it'll be like many different unique items, but apart from Isaac, all the items will be having lore dedicated to them, because in the second part of this game there's a secret lore that builds up to another spin-off that I'm currently working on right now. Yeah, believe it or not, where 2 major sides are featured and then a third sort of even like not standing at any side kind of character comes into it. I will take that in another video when it's more work dedicated into it, but for now that's just how it is. I'm working on that 6 kind of game project where 2 of the characters from this game I'm talking about right now will be featured in majorly. But yeah, so all the items will be lore based for the 2 characters from the second part of this game. And then the evil in this specific game would be sort of interesting, because it wouldn't be just one entity. It would be sort of like a kind of amalgamation of different opinions, different quotes, and different, like a really mysterious entity. Like, it wouldn't be just one with one purpose, or just like one kind of result sort of thing. Like he doesn't strive for one thing, he actually strives for many things, or has many opinions about things, and he's sort of like, he's just very crazy of a character, because he is like a mixed match between so many different characteristics of people. And I think sort of that makes him more intimidating, because you can never be sure like if he's telling the truth or not, and if he could even manipulate you into thinking that, oh, I shouldn't defeat him, I should follow what he actually said because it speaks some sense kind of thing. So I think he would be as an interesting villain to the whole thing. And I probably think that this would be the game that I spent most time thinking about. It's been really the hardest to develop, because I want it to be a good story, but also it means something in the end. And also there's many different paths that you can take, like there's multiple endings to it. So you can either finish the game like for instance with the already made character on 2 different paths, or even a secret third path where you either finish the first section evil or good or neutral, and then the second one you have 3 other endings where you either defeat the evil or you don't defeat him or something else happens. So, and then you have an entire another section with your own customizable character, and even then after that there will be unlockable characters in the second part of this game, in the Isaac section, where there's sort of like characters hinting of the game project that I'm working on right now. So yeah, I put a lot of effort and work into this one, which I think could be a little neat if I just got it to work and if I understood more about programming, and if you actually could combine two different engines of games into one single collection, or if you have to make a first one and then a second one, which I don't really know at the moment, but I think it could actually work to just put it into one single thing. As it is also with the Isaac games, there will be plenty of bosses to fight in the second part of this sort of RPG clusterfuck, I think you can call it at this point, because it sounds pretty ridiculous, I assume that you think at least. And each of these bosses will be also having their own lore. Like there is in the first one there will be one major lore, which is the character you play as and what his duty is and all that. But in the third one, it will be 3 different lores to go through. So there will be your character, and then it will be for the 2 characters that I'm working on their own game spin-off right now on, and then it will be about another more mysterious and secret entities that actually are featured somewhere in the first game but kind of hidden away, but you will get them more featured in the second half of it. And these bosses are dedicated to these third option people. I can just spoil a little thing about them. These bosses are essentially experiments or sort of test subjects from a laboratory, and they have broken out, and then they have like ravaged around this gigantic dimensional place where they are wreaking havoc. And your job kind of is to find all the bosses and then kind of like collect them in this book that these mysterious creatures give to you, so you can kind of like collect them back and return them to the laboratory. The bosses are not really experiments in themselves, but they have been experimented on, like they're test subjects, because they once were normal creatures or people, but now they've turned evil, and these figures are actually scientists who wants to like kind of experiment with the whole concept of good and evil, because they think that evil is actually a disease and you can actually cure it, but they have really no idea how to actually do it. And these monsters rather, they escape from this laboratory by one of their members actually betraying them or doing something that he should have done. So I think that's gonna be it for the RPG Isaac kind of game. It's pretty weird putting it in words, but I think it would be a very ambitious idea if they were put out and advertised right, actually. And now we're going to the second map, which is dedicated by itself to its own game, and there's plenty of ideas that I haven't put into it, or details rather, because they're actually on my computer right now, and I haven't actually either completely finished them, or I just haven't printed them out because I'm kind of lazy at the moment. But yeah, so this one will be dedicated to a game that I spend a lot of time on. And it's a game based on my favorite toy line since I was a kid, and you can have your own opinions about this. It's completely fine if you think there is something wrong with people very old talking about toys, if that is okay or if they shouldn't, or if you just want to consider like just because they're talking about toys then maybe they are playing with it. But you can have your own opinions about it, but I'm just gonna say this. I'm a adult. I do not play with any toys. This is just a game idea that is based around my favorite toy when I was a kid, alright? Right, just so we have gone that over. over with. But yeah, it would be a game based around the Lego series that is called Bionicle, if you remember it, because that was my favorite toys when I was a kid, and I always loved their lores. I even liked the movies, even though I was a kid and I had no really good judgment for what a good movie or a bad movie really is. But yeah, so this will be a game based around the Bionicle. It will be sort of like a Destiny slash Dark Souls-ish game. I want it to be the game with most customizabilities in it. I want it to be like, if you have a weapon, like a shooting weapon, you should be able to have like either a third person or a first person shooter kind of perspective. But if you want to go like hammers with a sword and a shield, I want it to be like more like a Dark Souls, which I don't really know the terms of that perspective, but it's just so you get an idea of what I'm trying to say. For the Destiny perspective, it would be a multiplayer game. You would have like a bunch of elements, kind of like supers, if you want to put it like that. They have their own charge abilities and all that, and then you have different ranks that you start and grow stronger with and all that. The more you actually play, there will be 6 normal elements that you can start off with, and then there will be some chaos elements, which is basically like a sort of like more powerful, wilder kind of element, or super if you want to put it like that. And then there will be like an evil alternative to it, so that would be called negative elements. And then there will be different stats that you can improve and all that. There will be a bunch of sort of armor customizations. You could even put in different shaders, or rather colors, onto it. And you will also, in the beginning before you play it, you will also have the option of playing between 2 different types of characters. You can either play to become a Toa, which is the hero names of Bionicle, or you could become a hero, as in a hero factory, because in my own storyline that I built up, I have sort of connected them into the same universe. And yeah, this game is also based around my own kind of storylines for the Bionicle universe, which sort of rewrites the whole idea of the main story, like the main timeline that they had. And then I also even I know I'm talking away from the game, but I just have to say this. I've also made like my own kind of comics called Time Chronicles, which have their own stories in themselves, and they like I just made a gigantic Bionicle universe myself that is in 5 movies, and there's also around 30 comic books, and then an entire game. And I also had like my own kind of characters in my mind for how they would look like and all that. I even named them, even put all the background story. Like I put a shit ton of work into this game as well. But back into the game, and rather the story of it and all. But yeah, there will also be different unique items that you could either infuse, or you could use them temporarily to grant your weapons like elemental damage and stuff like that. There will also be, for certain weapons, there will be different types of ammunition that you can shoot, and they all would have like different effects. Like either you could have poison, or it could be fire, or in some cases you could plus them, or rather add them together with another effect. So you could have like poison homing or fire homing or something like that, but only to specific ammunition. Like not every single bullet would be like that. It would be more to if you remember, Ratuka spinners, or even Kodak blasters or something like that. Or hell, even Kanukadus for that matter. I even made an entire... I'm sorry for the paper, but it's kind of stuck at the moment. Right, there we go. I even made like my own entire like map system, and I made 3 DLCs to this game, so it will be like Destiny, like an open world kind of exploration game sort of thing. and then it would have DLCs, obviously. There will also be the difficulty kind of thing of Dark Souls, I think, because I really want some of these opponents to really feel powerful. Even though I know it would be unfair at the moment, where like when you first encounter them and all that, because it would do way too much damage. But hold on, there will be elements in the game, for instance, there will be a certain thing that you could add to your character, and if you're cooperating with someone and then having that thing, you would like extend your life. And if you're in a fight team of 6, we would be the maximum type of player, because obviously 6 elements, 6 towers kind of thing. Then all of your health would be like expanded, so you could actually survive like the strongest blow from a very intimidated dude or something like that. There will even be raids to these with their own unique mechanics, and at the moment I think I've designed the 4 raids, I think, with their own unique encounters and all that. And there is like a lot of places to go to. Like you could either be in the Well of Bionicles, or you can be in the Mako Hero City, which is the place where the Hero Factories take place on. You could even go to Earth and visit us, because I sort of planned in the humans meet in the Bionicle sort of thing like that. And there will be other places like dimensions to go to as well, like imagining more Warframe perhaps than Destiny, because it will be plenty like more places, and it will all kind of be the same size, like really big to explore and all that. Because let's be honest, Destiny isn't really the biggest exploration game out there. I mean, sure, they have big areas, but not really that huge. And then I've designed like different moves that the bosses could do, like certain specific ones. And I also created the stories for each DLC, which they would focus on. Like they're all named after a specific sort of element. Like one DLC, for instance, is called the Kings. It will be featuring, well, kings as the title suggests. And then in it you will be either working with a king, or maybe you will be taking down a king or something like that. So it would make sense in that term. But yeah, again, I'm not trying to hide like everything away. I'm giving out some information, but like as I mentioned in the beginning, I want to keep this as a secret for now, but I will eventually release it in the statements that I made, which either is they get made and I can sort of do it as a promotion, or they don't get made and I just flat out just show out every idea that I kind of had as a thing, like every story and everything like that. But yeah, so that's gonna be doing it for the Bionicle. So now actually to the third map, which is the last map that I have, and is also dedicated to its own game. And this is not gonna be a crossbreed or anything. This is just a flat out Souls kind of like game. It would not be that much inspired by Dark Souls. It would be more inspired by Bloodborne, if anything, which is actually my personal favorite Souls game of all time, until maybe the release of the next game, which they haven't really teased. From Software keeping their secrets like they do. God damn it. But yeah, so this will be a game kind of like Bloodborne, and it will also be very heavily focused on the blood aspect. Like there will be different status effects that is heavily related to the blood. Like for instance, there will be a stat that is called hypovolemia, which is in the game mechanic, when the meter, you will have like a little meter, and when it reaches full you will lose like 20% of your total health. And hypovolemia, I hope I'm pronouncing it right actually, if I remember correctly, is basically when you have like a really big bloodlust, like you just lose like around 20% of your whole like body blood, like blood spill of 20% of your whole like blood that you have. So that would be kind of like a neat little thing. There will also be a stat that is called atherosclerosis. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I have no idea if I am. I'm probably not. Which is a medical term where the blood sort of like kind of gets like thickens up and like harder to go through your body, but in the game it will actually make you stiff for a short while. So like if you have another meter with a symbol on it, and then when it reaches full, it will basically turn you immovable for just a short period of time, which I think is a neat little idea because it's based around the whole blood and all that. It will also be featuring kind of like a beast mechanic because it's focused on a lot of monsters taking over a thing. This will not be centered around like in Yarnum, like a big city sort of thing. It will actually be taking place in more medieval sort of punk-ish hybrid style. Like it will be kind of like a very unique sort of style into it, because it will be in a castle, like a giant kingdom, but then it would also have the mechanics like in Bloodborne, where it's sort of steampunk, kind of the Victorian area of London sort of thing, kind of like a hybrid cluster like that. Because, not because, but also you could have like normal swords and shields, but then you could also have like weapons to parry, and then also multifunctional weapons you can either transform or de-transform into its original state, kind of thing. There will be plenty of bosses that I've designed. Some are ridiculously hard, some have great background stories and all that, and that's also another thing in the game that will be heavily featured, like the whole reading about the lore in the item description, so very Souls-like. What will be kind of different from a normal Souls game is that actually you would have a sort of teller or bounty tracker kind of thing. So like the main plot is going through different bounties that you go as a task, because you will actually be a protector of this castle, and or kind of like an exterminator if you want to put it like that. So you can either start off by being a knight, for instance, and then your duty is the same as everyone else's, every other class's sort of task, where you just have to defend the kingdom from horrible monsters and all that. A unique little mechanic would be that your currency is also your healing. So you can either play the game being very under-leveled, but having a ton of like HP heals, or you could have very shortage of it. I think I'm not trying to make the game like overly ridiculously hard, but I think it would be kind of like a unique little mechanic, because your heal will be actually blood that you're gaining HP from, but also you're using blood as a currency to buy weapons or just upgrade your stats. There will be 2 DLCs for this game that I planned for. The first DLC will kind of be sort of like nothing really major. It will just feature 2 different stories. One is around one involves you going out to the ocean to take down a ship, and the other one would be sort of like more inland, going to a little village where the curves, as I put it, are taking place, and monsters are coming up from nowhere and all that. And the third one would be that you're going through like dimensions or a thing. Like I know it sounds kind of ridiculous when I put it like this, but again, I don't want to spoil too much. I'm just trying to put it as simple as possible. But yeah, so it'll be very mind-twisting of a game. It will be sort of like Bloodborne, where there's all these types of mysteries leading to some like even greater either powers or plan or something like that. So it'll be pretty ridiculous. And there will be also very hybrid kind of weapons, like some could use different buffs, others could be magic based. And yeah, there will be magic in it, and there will be also as I mentioned, the shield and the parry weapons and all that, and there will be many different unique weapons as well. I try to make like as many weapons as possible that are unique in their own way, like either one has like a lot of range, but also very low damage. Others have like short range, greater weapons. Some are like a sort of staff, but then they can turn into a pickaxe kind of thing, or an axe that extends and it like gets a second blade and stuff like that. So I think it would be kind of like a unique and cool game as well. And I think this game out of all would have the most potential in being successful, actually, because I think it just makes more sense in all the works that I put into it. And it wouldn't really be like the biggest game in terms of size, because obviously that would go to the Bionicle one, but yeah, I believe mostly in the game price that I have in this specific map right here. I think this would actually be the perfect one to make a real life game out of it. Although, as I mentioned, I can't program anything. So if it were ever to be a game, I need to either show up with a Kickstarter and then get some money for that. But then there is also the problem that I need talented people that can actually do it, because this is not going to be like a 2D game. This is actually what I want to be, a 3D sort of game, like Dark Souls or Bloodborne. So that's going to be doing it for this video. I had no idea yet again. I'm sorry for repeating myself. I'm just very repetitive of a person that I really am. But thanks again for showing the support on my last video and actually showing interest for it. I had no idea that actually so many people would watch the video, and I hope that the same amount of people will actually see this video and be just as interested. And I hope that one day these game projects might actually turn out pretty well. And I hope that one day they could actually be receiving their full-on release and that people will actually love them, because I think these could actually be good games for players. And if you're curious if these games would be any like console exclusive sort of thing and all that, no, they will be featured to consoles like Xbox, Nintendo and PlayStation, but also to PC is sort of my plan at the moment. Although the RPG / Isaac game, that had to stick mainly onto PC, I think, because of how weird it is and the fact that it has its own kind of mechanics in it that I don't want to reveal, but mainly focus, or not focus, but works rather on the PC better than it does on a console. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you really enjoyed this video. I hope you found it very interesting. And if you want me to make another video, I can do that where I go specifically into one of these maps and actually explain more in depth, like I show some work or I talk more details about them. But then I have to do it with just one of the maps. Like I'd rather show off one entire game than to show off all of them, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, go down to the comment section and actually leave a comment if you want me to make another video where I put more detail describing into one of these maps within either the DLCs or the extra add-ons, or to one of the games more in depth, and I actually show you some work that I actually done, like drawing and perhaps even reading the story at all that that I have made. So yeah, thank you again for watching. This has been Jarl Vault, and I hope you have a great day.